Welcome to Audio Branding, the hidden gem of marketing. Sound plays a more important role in human behavior and our decision-making than you may realize. In this podcast, I'll help you understand the art and science of sound so you can better influence others in business and your life. I'm your host, Jodi Krangle. Let's delve a little deeper. Are there any really surprising touch points that you've told companies before? Because I mean, I've heard a lot of them, and I know, on hold, radio, streaming, video, YouTube,
product sounds, the sound of your app.
Mm-hmm.
But then the sound of your ATM if you're a bank.
Sure.
When you put your card, you take your card out, that should make a sound as well. You're using your audio logo. Any place that you have a brand interaction is where you want to use that melody, that sound, so that it is a more of an ecosystem.
That makes sense. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And getting into number 3.
Yeah, I could keep going on the brand ecosystem.
There's a lot, I'm sure. Yeah. But you're right.
Yeah.
I think that companies and products and services need to know what those touch points are before they start the process, because then that's going to inform what types of things you make,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so number 3 is to understand your brand's values and characteristics that make it unique. And that's, if you've got a brand guideline, it's more than just your visual guidelines. You've got to have your brand values in there. What are your attributes? What makes this brand stand out and unique against its competitors? Because, essentially that is what we're going to use to create your audio brand. Because it's going to evoke the feeling of the brand. And so that brand character is what comes through.
So we're on to number
4.
One? Number 4. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm losing track now. Yeah.
And so this is fun because this gets into the stuff where you've learned from doing so many Sonic brands, right?
Yeah.
The pitfalls of what has happened. So you want to bring your brand's leadership and your primary agency along for this creative process. You don't want to create it in a silo and then try to sell it to them afterwards, right? Because if they're a part of the creative process, they're going to be more apt to use it and to promote it on their own, right? Whereas if you create something, and then you create something in-house and then you try to force it on your agency of record, they're just not going to like it because they weren't a part of it.
Yeah. I've always wondered about the way that marketing agencies work with sound, audio agencies. So
Mm-hmm.
the audio branding agencies, are they usually completely separate from the marketing end of things for a big company? How do you involve the marketing agency?
Yeah, it can work 3 ways, right? You could work just with the brand alone.
Mm-hmm.
You can work with the brand and the agency, which is even better,
Mm-hmm.
because you get that buy-in. And the agencies that I have been a part of where we're working with the brand, they've been very respectful of the process, and they will default to the brand leadership, but they will still bring in their own opinion when it is asked for. But then, also when they see something that they want to call out. And, it's been a very respectful relationship. Otherwise, it could be agency-led. And so with those, agency will lead the process, and then they'll bring the brand in at certain checkpoints along the process.
Mm-hmm.
And that actually works out well, too. Especially I've seen that if the brand itself doesn't have a creative department, right? So if they're
Sure.
just marketers, they're not a creative in-house, and then the agency is the creative. A lot of times they'll do so much of the pre-work, and then we'll just check in with the brand to bring them along.
Yeah. It's interesting to hear about that process because I understand that it can be a bit of tension
depending on how well each portion works with each other. So,
Yeah,
and
they
you don't
certainly
want to
have
have,
seen that.
you don't want to have that tension because, like you said, otherwise they're not going to buy into it and they won't use it. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's right.
yeah. So number 5.
Number 5. All right, so this happens a lot, is that brands will be, especially in agencies, they'll be coming up on a new campaign. And they'll think, oh, well, you know what? This campaign's going to launch at such date. That throws some audio branding on there. And then from the get-go, then they're thinking about the audio brand as part of the campaign's messaging. And that is not what you want to do. So number 5 is think of your audio branding as part of your brand's equity and part of your brand's identity. And do not plan your audio branding around your campaign message. Because then as soon as that campaign message is gone and thrown out, there goes the audio logo.
Yeah, you want it to last a lot longer than that. That's the whole point. Because, it's always been my impression, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's always been my impression that the longer you can use these consistently, the better it's going to work for you because
That's
people get comfortable, they remember it, it gets lodged in their brain, and then that's an easy way to identify you in sound alone. But if you don't use it, if you only use it for a short time, I have to say that's kind of why I'm always disappointed by the fact that a lot of big brands will change their voice like every campaign. Yeah. Because that's getting rid of that comfortable relatability, that comfortable expectation of what you're going to hear. Yeah. And it just and I'm not saying it has to be me. I'm just saying, just settle on something for at least a little while and let it sit there. Let it actually do its job because it's not if you're changing it every campaign. So every 3 months you have a different voice, then it's not working for you the way that it could be.
Yeah, it's the subliminal messaging of that person's voice, if it's used throughout multiple campaigns, represents the brand, and your mind recognizes that so much faster. Whereas if you hear a new advertisement for the same brand with a new voice, your brain still has to process that, and it takes longer and what we call more brain fatigue. Whereas every Home Depot ad has the same voice and the same music. You don't actually have to hear what's being said to know what brand it is.
Yeah. That's really putting it to work for you because otherwise you're missing out on a lot of what you could be benefiting from in that audio brand.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we all know people are not listening to ads. They're not trying to decode everything that person is saying. Yeah. But you know what? If you're using the same voice and you're using a consistent sound, a consistent audio identity, it's still going to come through and be identified and recognized.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's next on that list?
All right. Number 6, provide adequate time to do the brand assessment, competitive analysis, and mood boarding. That is critical to creating an audio identity that is unique to your brand.
That is a big one. Yeah. How long do these things typically take? Do you know?
I recommend 2 months.
Okay.
Minimum, because that first month, really 3 weeks, is really what I suggest for brand assessment and competitive analysis. And then by the 3rd week, you can get those mood boards done. And so really 3 weeks is what I recommend to do the front half. And then it does take, a month to really narrow in on the specific sound that represents that brand and create the audio logo.
Okay, that makes sense. So leave enough time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And next?
Number 7. Add audio branding to your brand's visual guidelines so that everyone knows how to use it appropriately and effectively.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when you think of your brand guidelines, you'll have a chapter in there about your visual guidelines. Add a chapter about your audio guidelines in there as well. That way you're introducing, all the brand users to it, and also those audio guidelines are going to inform them on how to use it appropriately and effectively. And when they feel empowered, or when they read it, they're going to feel empowered to use it.
Yeah, it's always been a very interesting problem, I guess, that I've noticed that a lot of people have really specific visual guidelines, and they have it up on an intranet. Their whole company knows all about it, but sound is not treated with the same respect. And I don't understand, again, why that isn't the case. And hopefully things are changing now that people are aware of audio branding, because you may have a sound that you had no hand in making, and you don't want that, because that may or may not represent who you really want to be thought of as. And so consciously make an effort to make sure that people are all aware of the sound that you have and that you want to have represent you. It's pretty important.
That's right. Because, if you don't have, you may not think you have an audio brand, but you're still representing yourself somehow in music and sound. And if it's not thought correctly, it's not going to be true.
Yeah. So what do we get into in number 8?
All right. Introduce the audio brand to your broader internal team and all creative partners so they are comfortable and excited to use it.
That's a good one. Yeah. Again, if they don't know it exists, they're not going to use it.
That's right. Yeah. And it sounds, very straightforward, but it's, you would not imagine how often, audio brands get created and then they just sit on the shelf.
Yeah. And you don't want that. This is, it's not an inexpensive process. I don't think that it is as expensive as some people think it would be, because it saves you money in a lot of places. Yeah. But it's not inexpensive, and you don't want to spend that kind of money and then not use what you made. You wouldn't do that with a visual logo either. Why would you do that?
Exactly. Yeah. And number 10
or number 9.
Oh, number 9. That's right.
Number 9. We got to, can't miss number 9.
Do not think of your audio branding simply as an audio logo that you paste at the end of all your content. You want to develop a holistic branding system of voice, music, and sound that grows and adapts with the brand. And so, that actually leads us straight into number 10, which is using your audio branding agency as your creative, strategic partner that you meet with annually to continue to develop and solve challenges with.
Yes. The interesting thing about an audio brand is that it is a dynamic thing. It is not set in stone, and you can change it. You don't want to completely change it. It might still have elements of what it had before, but as your company changes, so would your audio brand, just like your logo might change, just like anything might change. It's not set in stone, right?
Yeah.
It can change.
One of your previous guests, I think they were in, is it Denmark? They were talking about how with the national radio that they create the audio branding for, every year they come back and they create more touch points.
Yeah, that would be Simon. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, wonderful interview.
Yeah.
And so, that's ultimately what you want to do, is continue to develop and adapt your audio identity through more touch points, more use cases, using it in your new current campaigns, not just letting it sit there on the shelf from what you created 5 years ago.
Yeah. And that's a great way to look at it, as a growing, evolving piece that represents your company. Yeah. Really fascinating. So that's a great list. Thank you very much. That was really fantastic, and hopefully explains to anyone listening how this might be used on their behalf if they have a company or a service or a product that they really want to get out there and make a good impression with. That, audio branding can be a part of that, and it should be. Doesn't matter how big or small your company is. So. That's right. Yeah, and I think it's very accessible for a lot of people, I think, and they should definitely be giving it some more consideration. But that's where things are, maybe, and that's where things have been. But where do you see this going into the future? Are there other places you can see this in use? Are there other reasons that a company might really want to delve deep into this? Are there good use cases that you're aware of that maybe are coming up in the future?
Yeah, some of the fun ones we've seen are wherever the brand is active. So so many brands, especially if they're national brands, will be active in things like Roblox. And so when they create their Roblox world, you want to be cognizant, oh, we have an audio brand. The music that is in this experience can also be related to the brand, right? Or the sound effects that are in our Roblox world also relate to our brand. And they're not, not completely siloed. So that was exciting to see brands looking into that. Whatever new technologies, wherever the brand is, luckily, audio is pervasive. Audio is usually there, and so there's a way to tie in your audio brand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because you want to sound like yourself. You don't want to sound like
Definitely.
someone else.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Are there? I used to hear this mentioned a lot in previous episodes when I would speak with people, and it's been a while since it's been mentioned. But appliances are like smart appliances.
Yep.
Are they actually still a thing? Are they becoming because I've heard nothing about them in like a really long time. So I'm wondering if there are brands that would go all in a smart appliance and might have a sound to reorder a particular thing from a refrigerator or something like that. Yeah.
Connected devices. I haven't thought about appliances as much recently when it comes to smart as far as that goes, but just the branding of these devices have certainly come a long way. Mm-hmm. You'll see it in just the way that the cars communicate their signals. It'll have a 3-note chime instead of just a single beep. Things are getting more sophisticated, whether it's a car or whether it is your dishwasher. They're becoming more musical, and with that comes something that's warmer, something that's more human, rather than just a beep, which it kind of has a negative connotation to it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I've noticed this in washing machines in particular, actually, because they always play like a neat little trill when they're done their cycle or whatever. Yeah.
Definitely.
But it seems to me like they would be a great place to put an audio brand because that would be a very distinctive sound depending on the brand of the washing machine.
Yeah, and you want a positive reinforcement. Oh, the laundry's done. That's a positive thing. That's a great place to play your audio logo. Even if it is in a very simplistic form, that brand melody is going to be more memorable and more impactful.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, this is really fascinating. So, we're coming to the end of it here, but are you working on anything that you can talk about now?
Oh, man.
I know it's hard. Because, you get in the middle of stuff and then you're on NDAs and all that kind of thing. So I get it. If you can't, that's totally fine. Can you talk about the genres maybe?
So HiQvia is two national TV commercials that will be starting in November on the air. So we wrote original music for both of those ads.
Okay.
And so there's not audio branding in those ads, but it's custom music. Mm-hmm. And so it's amazing when you play the stock music that was in the ads and then you play the custom music, how the original music just brings out so many things that are happening in the action of these TVC commercials. And secondly, we're all familiar with these big pharma ads and how it goes to what we call the major statement. The major statement has to be legally 28 seconds long. And so that's why all these pharma ads are 60 seconds, right? Because the major statement has to be almost half of it. And so the custom music will change for that major statement section and be a little more even keeled. It's not nearly as positive. It's not trying to sell you anything. It's really just it's very clear, actually. And so you're able to really pay attention to what the side effects are. And then when the side effects are over, the music comes up, the melody comes back, and you really get that positive feeling again. And so, custom music is very impactful to something. And so there's so much stock music out there, now AI music, but still really working with a composer to bring out the specific messaging and also the action on screen makes your advertising so much more interactive to watch.
Yeah, it makes things pop. And also, your nearest competitor isn't going to be able to use the same music.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, that happens all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I was with a customer this morning, and we were watching a video, and I recognized the stock image that they were using for a major a major car company was the same stock person that was in a detergent brand. These are both pieces of advertising that would be on streaming or digital YouTube, and yeah, it's the same stock imagery was in both.
Yeah, that kind of makes things look a little cheap, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's kind of the problem that I'm having with AI as well, in that if you're using AI, in voices especially, but in music, it can make your production seem cheap. And
totally.
if that's not the impression you want to give people who are thinking of buying something from you. So maybe something to give some good thought to.
Yeah. Oh, it's that same level of customization on how you can, not only can a voice actor use their feelings and their own life experience to bring out a script, you as a director can also direct that voiceover artist as well. And so those are things that you cannot do with AI. No.
Yeah, it's really hard to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But AI is great for, temping, getting something just for timing, things like that. And also it's great for, expanding your reach as far as the testing scripts, finding out, what is the best script for this market, what's the best script for that market. It opens up a whole world of possibilities that were not there before. So there definitely are great use cases. But you still have to bring the quality because audio is where quality is heard.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. Yeah. So, this has been fantastic, Jon, and I so appreciate your perspective on all of this. And I wish you every success with Sonic Signatures, because clearly you are doing some very good work there. And if someone wants to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
LinkedIn is great. So it's Jon Brennan at Sonic Signatures. You can also just drop me an email, john@sonicsignatures.io, and our website, sonicsignatures.io.
Okay. Just so that people are aware of how you spell your name, it's Jon.
Yes.
And it's Brennan, Brennan. Okay. I just want them to know that so that they don't look for John with an H. So, yes. Thank you so much, Jon. This has been fantastic. I really appreciate your coming on the podcast again. So,
It's my pleasure, Jodi. Thank you for having me.
Thanks.
Well, that's the end of this episode. Thanks for listening. And if you like what you heard, why not tell a friend about this podcast? It's available in all the usual locations. Until next time.